Like most of the world, a few days ago, saw an article that said 62 million views on a site that teaches husbands how to RAPE and drug their wives and then film it so that people can witness them assaulting them. And my heart broke. No, I wasn't angry. No, I wasn't rageful. No, I wasn't blaming. My heart broke for the world and its massive disconnection. And in this video today, I'm going to talk to you about what is happening and how we can shift it if you have the courage and the willingness to do so. This is Venus Starlight. Welcome her to our YouTube channel. Hello, I'm Yarrow Kay, clinically trained therapist, leadership mentor, nervous system genius, energetic sorceress, which means I'm a master of energetics and I guide you into divine union within so you connect to yourself, to others, and to the world. And what is happening with what we're seeing with these 62 million views on this site, which I love how everyone's like, it's 62 million men. I guarantee you it's not. Women do horrific things too. In fact, I have been bullied more horrifically by women, especially women who want a man when the man wants me, than worse than anything any man has ever done to me. Worse than anything any man has ever done to me. So I think it's ironic that we immediately go to, this is all men. And we just want to blame and villainize men. And I'm going to get to what the actual issue is and how to shift it. Hold, please. So here we have these 62 million views, and everyone just starts, berating men and criticizing men. And, it's like men stand up for us, men do this, men do that. We need the matriarchy. So let me tell you a thing about the matriarchy. The matriarchy starts with woman. These men were birthed by women. What does that tell you? These men were birthed by women. This tells me that these men were not loved, held, seen, attuned to, and held to their divinity. A woman's role is to hold a man to his divinity. This does not mean placate. This does not mean abdicate your power to. This does not mean give into. This does not mean bleed your heart out for him. This literally means saying no. Just looking in his eyes and knowing that you see him for who he actually is, the truth in his being, that you know who he can be, that you believe in him, but you're also not leaving him. You're also not leaving him. Because what happens so often is women are coming from little girl energy. Women are expectant, entitled, abdicating their power, ignoring things and grasping on for fear of loss. Ignoring things and grasping on for fear of loss. Rather than anchoring to the power within them. So Yogi Bhajan says that women are 16 times more powerful than men. 16 times more powerful than men. Yogi Bhajan is the creator of Kundalini Yoga. Do you know what that means? We're also 16 times more destructive. And if you watch me, you've heard me say this before. If you've done any programs with me, you've heard me say this before. And women are 16 times more destructive towards themselves and towards other women. More so than they are destructive towards men, towards themselves and towards other women. And then once they get the man, they're destructive towards the man. So how often do you see this happen where a woman really wants a man and then she gets him and then he doesn't fill all the voids inside of her that she thought he was going to fill, and all of a sudden he's worthless, he doesn't do enough, she's criticizing, she's nagging. What do you think is happening inside of this man when that is happening? Now that you're going to say, but Yarrow, you can't blame it on the women. I am not blaming anyone. That is not what I do. And anyone who works with me knows this is about full radical responsibility. And if we want to talk about a matriarchy, we have to look at the fact that women are the creators of life. Women are the ones who birth life into existence, which means women are energetically the lead. They're the center of the world. They are center of the life force. And when women are disconnected from love, They're first of all going to choose a man not based off of actual true connection and love. They're going to choose based on safety, based on survival. Women have been conditioned for thousands of years that they need a man for survival. We are actively deconditioning from that right now. But in the process of that, we've created a lot of division between men and women. It's become the villainizing of men and the, like I'm good without him women, and that's not going to serve anybody because we're meant to be in union, men and women. Like we birth life together. There's a reason for that. We birth life. Like flowers are birthed based off feminine and masculine. Like we are meant to come into union and give life to the world. I don't know how many other ways to say that. It needs to land. We are meant to come into union and give life to the world. And when a child is birthed into the world and there's no love, you only really need one parent to effectively attune to you. I've had my mom, she's wonderful. I haven't seen my dad since I was 2. I have had many men in my life, a couple really potent stepfathers, one who is currently in my life, who have just truly nurtured my vivacious, audacious energy, my vivacity, vivaciousness, and my audacity. And as I've been reflecting on that, I'm feeling really grateful that I've had these beautiful men whose egos were never triggered. They didn't try to control me. They really just nurtured this energy in me. And I know that not every woman has had that. And not every woman has had a mom like mine who showed me power. Yet there are still ways that she was disconnected. I grew up off grid. I grew up in a world that was much more connected to love than most, but there are still ways that trauma showed up, right? Like someone recently said to me about someone, I saw a girl's post and I was like, there's a lot of little girl energy in this post. And someone said, oh, well, she's got her hands in the dirt and she's really like connected to the earth. So she's a matriarch. She knows. And I was like, yeah, I grew up off the grid and like everyone had their hands in the dirt and they were all acting out their trauma. So just because you have your hands in the dirt doesn't mean you don't have unprocessed attachment wounds because we literally all do. So here we are in our society and men are like really have lost it, right? This is 62 million views. I will die on the hill that it is not all men. But 62 million views. So what does that say? Probably most of them are men. But it also says we're super hurt and disconnected and sick and addicted. We're hurt, disconnected, sick, and addicted. And so if you come at this with rage, if you come at this with anger, which there may be a place for your rage, you may need to process your rage. But if that's where you're coming at this from, you're perpetuating the problem. We need deep love. And love is not weak, pathetic, enabling, abdicating our power to. Love, it's transformational. A woman who is connected to her love will birth worlds. A woman who's disconnected from it will destroy them. And these men, their mothers, were not connected to love. And probably their fathers weren't either. Because if you look around the world, there are very few people who are actually connected to their heart. In fact, when I do work with my clients, I cannot tell you how many times we have realized seemingly good people were functioning under the guise of being good, but we're not actually connected to their hearts. And energy is louder than actions or words. And so we're living in a very disconnected world, devoid of real love, because real love is going to make you vulnerable. Real love, so let's lay this out. You're a woman, say you're one of these wives, and you meet one of these men. Women are fucking genius and intuitive masters of energetics. So you meet this man, you feel something off in your body, but you have so much woundedness, so much trauma, so much need, survival wrapped up in having a man that you ignore it. You numb it out. Maybe you drink a little too much. Maybe you take some pills. Maybe you just shop your way to, anesthetizing yourself. Maybe you're overworked. Maybe you never knew what love was. So you have learned to numb out and you can no longer hear the infinite wisdom of your intuition. You marry this man, and here you are, you get into this marriage, and this is happening. There was no love to begin with. There was no heart. There was no real connection. And you might be saying, well, Yarrow, you don't know, da da da. People who are connected to their heart don't do shit like this. They can't. You literally can't. Your heart will be connected to source, and you'll be like, I could never do that. When I was young, like 24, I was sleeping with this guy, and I've talked about this before on here, and I have a whole podcast episode on it. And he was like, I called him the modern day Charles Manson. And we had amazing sex. He really like split me open sexually. It got to a point where it got kind of like messy because he was sleeping with a bunch of other women, which I knew from the beginning. I never ever thought he wasn't. But the reason I call him a modern day Charles Manson is because he had so many women who he was sleeping with. It was like a harem. And they all knew about each other. And it was like this big messy thing. And it's one of the reasons that I know women do fucked up shit, especially when it comes to a man, because the amount of the number of those girls who wanted to befriend with me or would stalk me or would do shady, weird shit. And then I did shady, weird shit too, because that's what happens when you don't know how to hold your power as a woman. If we don't shift this, we are in so much trouble. So, anyways, he would do all kinds of things, right? And I was all wrapped up in it because I was caught up. And then I ate psychedelic mushrooms one day at the ocean, and it downloaded through me because I connected back to my heart. And I was like, oh my God, what am I doing? Like, how am I sleeping with this man? And then I got on a moral high horse and I decided to show up at the rave that he was throwing. It was his rave, he was DJing at it. And I told the other women what was going on. And one in particular who he had like was playing house with. She was like living with him and he was pretending that he was only with her. And you know, then he convinced me it was like believing the National Enquirer, and he went on about his life. And then about 6 months later, a friend of mine told me that it all came out on its own. I didn't need to get involved. My point with that story is that though I wasn't doing anything super bad, I was like involved in something that was not in integrity with who I am. And when I ate mushrooms and got back to my heart, I realized it. We can so easily get disconnected from our heart. And what we're witnessing is a bunch of men who are disconnected from their heart, and probably a bunch of women too. And it starts with women. Women hold unconditional love. We are designed to. We hold the energetic frequency. The egg chooses the sperm. The egg chooses the sperm, and then she sends out energetic signals that bring the sperm to her. The sperm does not choose the egg. And so also when, you know, people are like, "Oh, you're blaming women because of who they chose." Women choose. Women choose. This isn't about blame. This is about the actual truth of energetics and what is happening in our being. And if we want to abdicate our power to other things, which we've been conditioned to, so I have a lot of empathy for women. We've literally been conditioned to abdicate our power to men. We've been, for thousands of years, we couldn't own property. We couldn't survive without a man. So of course that's conditioned into us. Do you know how much deconditioning we're going to have to do to get that out of our system? Like, so much. And this is the work that I do with my clients, is to decondition this need for a man so that you can actually desire one and create real connection and hold a man to his divinity. So if you were to hold a man to his divinity, to go back to the story of the woman who chose the man, if she had said, oh, hey, I don't like that you do this, here's the mirror, he would have probably left, because one of two things is going to happen when you hold a man to his divinity. He's going to rise up to meet you, or he's going to leave. And women often don't hold a man to his divinity because they don't want to risk the loss. Because if you lose him, you might die. And even if that won't actually be true, it may feel that way in your nervous system. Like your nervous system is wired and conditioned to make you believe that you need a man and you have to do everything you can do to keep the man. So this has women abdicating their power to men, leaking it. And then there's a bunch of bitter, angry, resentful women because they've done this for too long and they've not received a man back. And you know what, my loves? And you're not going to like this. This is on you. Like, we are the power. Don't you get that? Like, you want to talk about a matriarchy? You want to talk about a woman led society? You better learn how to own your power. And owning your power does not mean running around letting your anger spew out all over the internet without actually looking at Where am I leaking my power? Where have I leaked my power? Can I forgive myself for it? Can I process my anger, my bitterness, and resentment? So if you have sacred rage, sure, process it through and then use it to create, but get honest about where you're not embodied in love. And again, we have this misconception that love is like this fruity thing that's like, oh, I'm just going to love everybody. That's not love. Love is like, hey, here's the fucking mirror. Do you see this bullshit you're doing? That's not okay with me. Go. You want to come back when you've healed all that shit. Then we can talk. That's love. That's real love. If a man leaves, you let him leave and you don't chase him. That's love. That's love for yourself and that's love for him. And that is not how we're functioning in this world. We're grasping, we're controlling, we're nagging, we're bitter, we're jealous, we're resentful. We have no personal power, like collectively. And then people who develop a certain level of personal power, they then start to project their bitterness all over the place. Like the number of reels that I saw with women just enraged about this, like put them in prison. And then this other man that's like, we need to hunt them down as predators. I'm like, if you can't get to how sad this is, 62 million views. That's not an outlier. That's not like a few hundred or even a few thousand. Like, we are dealing with an epidemic of disconnection and pain and heartbreak, and disconnection from heart and soul and spirit. And then we've been conditioned and fed ethics and morality through religions that just want to control us. We've not been taught how to transform our energetic frequency into higher consciousness. We've been conditioned to do the quote unquote right thing. So when we're conditioned to do the quote unquote right thing, we act in accordance with what we think we should do versus what we actually are feeling. Now, stay with me on this one. This doesn't mean we get to go run rampant and do shitty things. This means that because of that, we repress all of the thoughts we have. And then because we repress those thoughts, they unconsciously come out and then we act on some of them and then we try to hide it because we have so much shame about it. And then we do worse things because we don't have a place to say, hey, I'm having this thought. Can we process it through? Because the things that hide in our being, in our shadows, in our unconscious, they start to curdle and they become this disgusting, rotting thing. And we need to get it out somehow. And we don't have a safe space to air this stuff without people judging us, projecting on us, or making us feel wrong. And then we feel shame and we want to avoid shame. So we've spent all these years doing the quote unquote right thing and not actually bringing our demons into the light and alchemizing them so that we can transform into a higher state of consciousness where we're actually connected to love and source, not with perfectionism, but then we know how to authentically move through the world and to follow our unique journey. So what's happening now is we're controlled, we're critical, we're bitter, we're resentful, we're trying to repress the parts of us that we don't think are acceptable. We don't have a place to ritualize those so that they can get out of our being, right? Now, I'm not saying this would solve the problem as a whole, but it would solve it like 95% at least within people. Like most people aren't that fucked up, but they become that fucked up because they have so much unprocessed pain and shame that it then fragments who they are and shuts down their heart, and then they do horrific shit. Also, we are medicated, like way overly medicated. And so that also shuts down your empathy and your ability to feel and process your feelings. And if your first reaction to this is rage, you really need to process that because to me, the first reaction, the one that's most open-hearted and connected, is such deep sadness. Like such deep sadness for everyone involved. Like it makes my stomach turn. And maybe that causes you to go to rage, and that needs to be processed so you can actually get to pain, because it's painful that we are this fucked up and broken in society. Like it's deeply painful. And it's not just men. These men were birthed by women. Women want a matriarchy, but they don't want to take responsibility for the levels of power that they hold. With great power comes great responsibility. And my loves, women listening to this, you are the life force. You are the ones that have that responsibility. You are the ones that birth life into this world. You are the ones that have the power to hold the vibration of love, to transform the men around you. But most of you don't have the power to do that. In my work with my clients, this is how I work with them always. Doesn't matter who they're relating to or what they're relating to. It's an anchoring of your power to yourself, looking at what you need to process through, and then how can you stay anchored to the vibration. Sometimes you have to end it with someone. Sometimes you have to walk away. Sometimes you have to hold up the mirror. Sometimes you have to just be loving and look them in the eye and let them get to that place. Sometimes you have to be fucking angry. I saw this reel the other day, and the guy was saying that Yeshua walked into a temple and he just like knocked tables over, but it wasn't out of rage. And I want you to hear this. It wasn't out of rage. It was out of a boundary, like enough is enough. It was out of power, and it was holding this power of like, we're not doing this anymore. This is not something that we are engaging in any longer. We are not, like, he, meaning he and the people, are not going to be manipulated in these ways. And I had just been thinking about the difference between rage and clarity. And that is a clarity, that is a power. And when a woman holds that kind of power, it's such a force, right? It's like it's almost like having a sword and like stabbing it in the earth and then standing there and allowing that like lightning to fractal out all around you, and it just pushes people back because they know you're not fucking around and you're not taking the shit. But what happens is women contract, they turn into little girls, and then they go into this rageful fit of like, men need to protect us. No, you need to learn to embody your power so that you don't abdicate it to men. Like, we have so much unconscious leaky energy as women. Like constantly, sneakily abdicating our power outside of ourselves because you know what? Holding that responsibility, holding that power is really scary and takes a lot of internal safety, nervous system resilience, and personal power. And it's so much easier to blame. It's so much easier to be like, men, you need to show up. Men, you need to do this. The truth of all the truths is that divine feminine energy leads. And until women can hold an anchor to their power and to the power of unconditional love and hold everyone around them in their divinity, this means their parents, their children, their friends, their man, everyone in their divinity. Until that happens, we're going to continue seeing things like this. We need so much more connection and love in this world. And so back to how I work with my clients is we look at where are the sneaky ways you're abdicating your power? What are you meant to learn here? What are the lessons here? How can you anchor to your power so that you can transform what's happening around you? And sometimes that's uncomfortable. Sometimes there's going to be betrayal or loss or something that feels atrocious, and you're going to want so badly to go to that victim story. But you know what? A victim stays a victim. Doesn't mean we haven't been victims, but we get to be responsible for how we respond to that. And when we can learn that responsibility and to anchor to that level of power, we literally transform everything around us. I work with this with my clients, with their cats, with their dogs, with everything. Like oftentimes if I have women who are in relationships and it's like there's a battle going on, as there will be in relationships, I'm like, you need to be the one to hold the power and hold him to his divinity. And every single time that they actually do it and they hold it for long enough without giving in because they're impatient or scared of loss, every time they actually do it, he shifts. Every time I have a client who holds the energetic frequency with their family, with their partner, with their children, with their sweet little cats, every single time the energy shifts. That's the power you have as a human. And not just women, men have this power too. We all have divine feminine, divine masculine energy. It's Ida and Pingala in the Shumana. Am I saying that correctly? I think I am. It creates union within you. It creates union within you. It's the divine feminine, the divine masculine, the union that is within you, and holding that unconditional love. And why I say that women lead it is because divine feminine energy leads. And if you're birthed into this world as a woman, you are meant to hold that divine feminine energy. And so you're meant to hold the power of love. And so when women are birthing children into this world and they haven't embodied that kind of love, what do you think is happening to these babies? And then they're growing up and they are wounded and heartbroken and disconnected and they're rageful and they haven't been loved. They haven't been held to their divinity. They haven't been energetically trained to shift into higher states of consciousness. This is not a bypass. We have to feel the pain. So those of you who are feeling super rageful, feel the rage, like process the rage, be with the rage, get to the pain and then process the pain and then anchor to love and go, what would be the most powerful thing I could do for the planet right now? How do I hold this vibration of love in a way that creates more reverence, more connection, more heart? Like, you literally couldn't do these things if you were connected to your heart. You wouldn't be able to. Your body would stop you. Do we not get that? Like, this is a shutdown of a heart from men and from women. And it's fed to us all day long. And what I mean by that is that media pumps us with so much that we can't stand it and our system shuts down. And it's a radical act of courage to reconnect to your heart, to actually feel your feelings and let them process through you, to anchor to the infinite power within you, and to hold the people in your life to their divinity in unconditional love. Like, when you can do that, you can change the world. Like, do you not realize that? Do you not understand how fucking powerful that is? And you've not been guided on how to do it. And this is the work that we do in the ROK way. Like, we do the work of getting you to your heart so you can hold your power and you can hold everyone around you to their divinity. It's not for the faint of heart. I'm not for you if you want to hold on to your victimhood. I'm not for you if you are wanting to blame. I am for the people who are ready to take radical responsibility for their power, their heart, their spirit, their breath, and to anchor to unconditional love and create divine cosmic union within you so that you create it outside of you as well. That is what the ROK way is. So if you're reading these articles, if you're listening to reels, podcasts about this website and the 62 million views in February, I'm really going to need you to remember that this is very wounded and it's not an outlier. It's a lot of people. And how deeply important it is for us to anchor back to love and to hold people to a higher standard of who they are. We need deeper healing. Like, when they're saying, oh, put them in prison, what the fuck's that gonna do? That's not gonna do anything. You don't go to prison and learn how to love. Some people do, but not many. And I know this personally and intimately because I grew up in a pot growing world and I've known people who've gone to prison for long periods of time. So you don't learn this in prison. Maybe one day, but like, there's another way. We need deep healing collectively. We need spaces where we can bring our shadows forward and not be shamed for it, not be judged for it, but to ritualize it so that we can unearth it from our being and anchor back to love. We have darkness, all of us. When it's not effectively metabolized without shame, it turns ugly. When women aren't connected to love, when they're abdicating their power to keep men or to please men or to shrink for men, when women don't know how powerful and beautiful they are, this is what happens. And when men haven't been taught to revere women, which is what happens when you have a mother who isn't connected to love, she doesn't teach you how to revere women. This is about what you were taught, what you were conditioned with, how you weren't able to process your feelings. And now we have men and women who are so disconnected from love, and it's playing out. And we want to judge and blame and get angry, and you want to say all men, all women too. Because women are not connected to that love, and we are meant to be that force of love that holds the power and says no without abdicating, freezing, fawning, going into shutdown. And yes, might there be outliers still in this situation? Sure, we're complex humans, but we would heal it at the root and it would shift dramatically. So if this calls to you, if you really want to do this level of work to embody energetics in this way, to embody your personal power in this way, to create divine cosmic union within so that you create it with everything else, join the ROK way. I have multiple different ways to do so. I'm not going to sell those right now. You can reach out on Instagram at YarOK. Please get still, get to your heart. Let's shift this at a core cellular DNA level. It's our only way forward, truly.